Finally, UFC 288 fight week. We've arrived for the highly anticipated bantamweight title fight between the current champion, Aljamain Sterling, and the former two-weight world champion and Olympic gold medalist, Henry Cejudo. There are so many questions that have to be answered ahead of this fight, but first we have to look back at the history of the bantamweight division and how we got to this blockbuster main event. Both men's journey to the title was slightly different. Henry Cejudo was the man at flyweight, having dethroned the longest reigning champion in UFC history, Demetrius Johnson. This took place on his second attempt, of course. His first attempt didn't quite go to plan when he was stopped in the first round. On his second attempt, however, having rebuilt himself, he was able to outpoint Johnson, handing Mighty Mouse his first loss in 7 years. On that very card, UFC 227, when Cejudo defeated Johnson, the main event on the night was TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. Dillashaw would yet again get the better of his former foe and began his journey to become a two-weight world champion. His plan was to do the unprecedented, however, drop down in weight to 125 pounds and challenge Cejudo for the flyweight belt. On the UFC's first main event on ESPN, Cejudo clashed with the reigning bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw, but this time the fight took place down at flyweight. It went Cejudo's way, however, in just 32 seconds. On top of that, we all know what happened to Dillashaw after that fight. Cejudo would then announce that he was going up in weight and planning to become a two-weight world champion himself. It wouldn't be Dillashaw that he was challenging, however. It would be Marlon Moraes. The fight came about after Dillashaw was stripped of his belt for PED usage. The fight between Cejudo and Morales took place on June 8th, 2019. After two competitive rounds, Cejudo took control and finished things in the third round, becoming only the fourth fighter in UFC history to become a double champion. In December 2019, 6 months after capturing the bantamweight title, Henry Cejudo would relinquish the flyweight title in order to focus on the bantamweight strap. His first, and to date only, defense came against former longtime champion and widely regarded GOAT of the division, Dominick Cruz. Cruz was returning after a long time on the sidelines. He'd been out for more than 3 years and was also returning on short notice to face Henry Cejudo. Originally, Cejudo was scheduled to face Jose Aldo. However, the Brazilian had to withdraw from the fight. The battle with Cruz played out how many believed it would. The more active, younger, quicker Cejudo dominated the former king on his way to a second-round TKO victory. Post-fight, Cejudo surprised many, announcing that he would be stepping away from the division, vacating the bout, and allowing others to fight for the title. As far as we were concerned, Henry Cejudo was retired, never to return again. After Cejudo relinquished the belt, Russian Petr Yan, riding a 6-fight UFC winning run, took on the former featherweight king Jose Aldo for the vacant title just 2 months after Henry Cejudo had vacated it. Yan won the fight via knockout in the 5th round after a dominant display throughout the first 4 rounds. Petr Yan was now the hunted at 135 pounds. Just 1 month before Yan captured the belt, when he defeated Jose Aldo, American Aljamain Sterling extended his winning run to 5 when he dominated and blitzed through fellow top contender Corey Sandhagen. It took Sterling just 1 minute and 28 seconds to cement himself as the next top contender for the belt. Next, Sterling realised a bantamweight title shot. However, it wouldn't quite go as planned. Yan picked up where he left off against Aldo, dominantly. He was winning the fight against Sterling and was seemingly cruising to victory. That was until he wasn't. He landed a brutal knee to Sterling when he was deemed a grounded opponent. Sterling was deemed unable to continue and was declared the champion due to a disqualification. There are many questions as to whether he was the legitimate champion or not, having won the bout via disqualification. Naturally, we had to have a rematch. However, Sterling required surgery on a recurring neck injury, leading to an interim title fight being made between Petr Yan and Corey Sandhagen. On that occasion, it was Petr Yan that got his hand raised via decision in a Fight of the Year contender. This set up a mega fight between Sterling and Yan, the rematch we all needed, the rematch we all wanted, and a rematch for the undisputed UFC Bantamweight strap. When the two men met in their rematch at UFC 273, it would be Sterling who would have his hand raised, this time across 5 rounds, proving that although the first fight didn't go how they had imagined, the outcome was inevitable. It was certainly a close fight. However, for now, the rivalry was buried. Aljamain Sterling was the undisputed UFC Bantamweight champion. Having beaten Petr Yan and Corey Sandhagen, with his teammate Merab Dvalishvili being a top contender and Jose Aldo seemingly on the way out of the sport, Sterling went in search of his next opponent. This came in the form of former champion TJ Dillashaw, who was returning after serving his suspension. The fight was set for UFC 280, and many thought that it would be a highly competitive bout. The fight, however, similar to Sterling's first fight with Yan, didn't go quite as we all imagined. Sterling dominated the fight, finishing things via second-round TKO. However, it appeared that Dillashaw suffered a shoulder injury within the first few moments of the fight. Regardless, Sterling had his hand raised on the night and ultimately remained the UFC Bantamweight champion. Naturally, questions would be asked again. Who's next for Aljamain Sterling? Top contender Sean O'Malley came out of the woodwork with a big win against Petr Yan and seemingly may have been next. Marlon Vera was on the cusp of a potential title shot. Rob Font was looking at making his comeback following consecutive losses. We know that Merab Dvalishvili, having outpointed Petr Yan decisively, was never going to face his teammate Aljamain Sterling. Naturally, we had to see who might have been next for Aljamain Sterling. Would it be that Aljo steps up in weight to face Alexander Volkanovski for the 145-pound title? Not this time. Not yet. Aljamain Sterling will take on the returning Henry Cejudo at UFC 288 live from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. He will be looking to make the third defense of his bantamweight title. It'll be a little under 3 years since we last saw Henry Cejudo compete, and we have to ask the question what he's got left and whether he can still hang with the best of the best in Aljamain Sterling. Whatever happens, we know this one will be highly competitive. We're all excited for it. The UFC 288 main event between Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo is guaranteed to deliver, and as fans, we can't wait.